Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Bellingham City Council Committee on Economic and Community Development. We have one item for us tonight, and that's we're here to listen to the members of the public about their thoughts, one way or the other, input and reactions to the idea of whether or not Bellingham should pass an ordinance requiring employers to provide paid sick and safe leave to their employees. There has been a sample ordinance passed around, and other communities have passed ordinances, but we're not here necessarily to discuss any particular proposal. Bellingham has not drafted any particular proposal. We're really talking at the moment about the concept and the generalities. If you do have inputs on specifics, certainly we will listen to those, but, you know, I think that's a good enough comment. We are going to try to make sure that we hear from, roughly speaking, two sides, those who are skeptical and those who are in favor of this idea. I'm going to go back and forth from those in favor and those against the idea, and you'll have 2 minutes to speak. One of the reasons we moved it over here, I don't actually like this kind of setting. It's too formal. I feel like you're church and you're staring at me. But it became necessary in part because of the number of people and also because we would only have an hour over at the library. There's another group with a meeting, and we thought that there's no way we were going to get this done in an hour, and cutting off the discussion was not going to play well at all. It wouldn't be fair. And so we're going to go probably about an hour and a half. I'm hoping we'll be done by then. I know we'll probably be tired at that point. If not everyone has heard about an hour and a half, we can think about squeezing the last few people. But I think that is what we're going to try to do. I think that given the number of people signed up, and if we stick to a 2-minute limit, I think we will have a chance to hear from everybody. And even if you don't, or if you have thoughts you don't express tonight, you can always reach us by email. The best way to reach all 7 City Council members is with a group email. It's called CC Mail, so CC for City Council Mail at cob.org. That goes to all 7 City Council members. That's an easy way to reach us on this or any other topic. Committee members, do you have any comments you'd like to add, or shall we begin?
I just would like to say
Roxanne.
I also want to say that we are here to respect everybody's opinion, and I ask each of you to please respect one another in this, because we know this is a dividing issue. And so if you could refrain from cheering and clapping, because we don't want to dissuade people from sharing their thoughts and their feedback. So please just try to have reverence and respect for one another, and thank you.
Yeah, excellent comment. That is one of the rules we try to have in here on all City Council meetings. So with that, I'm going to begin. First person to speak in opposition is Mr. Tony Larson. So if you could just maybe state your name if I don't state it.
Yes, Tony Larson. I'm the president of the Whatcom Business Alliance. And first of all, I'd just like to thank you guys for having this meeting and opportunity to listen to the business community and others that have opinions on this. And I'd just like to say that, just out of curiosity, how many business people are here that have never been to a city council meeting? There's a lot of you, and I really appreciate all of you coming out. And the reason that they're coming out is because this is an issue that impacts them directly. And we've been talking to a number of businesses that are companies from all different sizes, from many different industries. What's very interesting is people from very different political stripes. And this is not a political issue. The common denominator is that business owners want to do what's best for their company and for their employees. And employee retention and being able to attract good employees is very important to them. And there's a number of things associated with this concept that gives them reasonable pause. And there's a number of reasonable concerns. And it's not just from the smaller companies that you would think would really be negatively impacted by something like this, but the compliance issues. There's just a number of things, and I understand that the ordinance has not been completed, but there are a number of things in the one that's been reviewed that creates a number of different concerns. So outside of that, and there's a number of the folks here that probably this is a less comfortable environment than what they're used to, and so a lot of them did not sign up to speak. But what I would like to share, some of them will share some of their concerns, but I'd just like to share another one that is just really tied to our role as an economic development organization. We in the Port of Bellingham and the Chamber and the Chambers and a number of other organizations, we've worked really hard to try to create dissuade the perception that Bellingham is a unfriendly place to do business. And the concern is that this will feed the perception. Anytime you have employer-mandated requirements on employers, especially in the human resource area, that's going to create a lot of concern. It's going to really exacerbate that perception. So what our ask would be to defer this until we have a better handle on the real problems locally and work to find reasonable solutions, and we're more than happy to help you do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Lane Amacker next, and then after Lane, Wes Herman, if you'd get ready.
So my name's Lane Amacker. I'm a coalition member. I live at 901 North Forest Street. I also want to thank the council and folks that came out here today for having this conversation and discussing the issue. First, this is a matter of economic justice for nearly half of our community. Many low-wage workers go to work sick because they can't make the rent if they stay home sick. These are people preparing our food and caring for our loved ones. And this is it's an issue that affects a huge proportion of our community. So members of the coalition have actually 600 cards that they've prepared from members who couldn't be here, community members that couldn't be here tonight, and we have those in the audience here, of folks that either need paid safe and sick leave or just believe that it's the right thing to do. They have it, like myself, they have it and they just know it's the right thing to do, that we need this. There's other communities in Washington State that are leading on this. Bellingham needs to lead on this as well. It's common sense, it's the right thing to do, and we need to be on the right side of this issue. Thanks.
Thank you, Lane. Wes Herman? And then after Wes, if Betsy Pernato could get ready.
Thank you. Thanks for hosting this. I come as an employer and want to speak to the fact that sick leave is something that we as a company provide for our employees. And I don't believe that it is a place of the city to have to mandate this for employers. If we're in a competitive marketplace, if that is something that people seek to have sick leave, then I'm sure there are companies, as we have polled a different business community, that have sick leave within their company and they offer it to their employees. To have a city do that, I'm just not sure of how that mechanism is going to work. With many stores in Bellingham and employing, well over 200 people entirely in this county, not all in Bellingham, I just know that we want this to be a business-friendly community. That's what we've grown. We've grown a lot of stores in Bellingham, all around the fact that this is a good place to be. And when we consider other places to put stores, we may consider going outside of the city because there are mandates in this city that make it more strenuous and difficult for us to work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Wes. Betsy, and then after Betsy, we'll go to Bob Deal.
Thank you, council members, for holding this listening session tonight. Just as there are a lot of business people here that may not have ever come out to a council meeting before, how many people are here to support paid sick leave? Okay. So I agree with Mr. Larson. This is an issue that affects not just business, it affects our whole community. And it affects it because it affects public health. I want to ask council and audience members, would you knowingly eat at a restaurant if you knew the servers or kitchen staff were sick? Well, in Bellingham, we don't know that. Every time we eat in a restaurant, we take a chance of getting ill because most restaurants don't offer paid sick leave to their employees. Even most grocery workers have to wait until their third day of illness before paid sick leave kicks in. Businesses complain paid sick leave costs too much, but consider this. What did it cost the Applebee's in Bellingham when it was forced by the health department to close twice within the same week in February 2014 because of a norovirus outbreak among employees? And what did it cost the 68 employees, or 68 people, including employees and customers who ate there and got sick? What did it cost Hanigan in 1989 when a produce worker went to work with hepatitis A and exposed a potential 30,000 individuals to hepatitis A? I can remember Hanigan's holding immunization clinics. That must have been a huge cost for them. When employees are forced to come to work sick because they can't make the rent or can't afford to miss work, or if they face losing their job or receive discipline at work if they're absent due to illness, their illness becomes a public health problem. Perhaps the sign in restaurants that says, "Please wait to be seated," should be changed to "Caveat emptor," buyer beware. How much business would a restaurant lose if there was a sign on the front door reading, "Caution, sick servers"? Thank you.
Thank you, Betsy. And Mr. Bob Deal, and then after Bob Deal, by the way, you guys are going great. Adriana Sharp.
Thanks for inviting us, and I will be very brief. My family's been in business in this town for over 108 years. Not me, but my family. And in all that time, I guess I've been there for half that. I do not ever recall an employee asking for this kind of a, quote, benefit. We provide informal sick leave and safe leave policies, as do many others, and the general objective of this, I'm not against. What I am against is applying it just to the city of Bellingham. That puts us at a very unfair competitive advantage. Now, if this was legislated state-wise or national-wise, that would be fine. And I think that's the way it should go. I admire you for listening to all these people, and want to recommend that we will be willing to help you, just like you've heard earlier, on any of your future deliberations. Thank you for letting us talk.
Thank you, Bob. Now Adriana Sharp, and then I'll come back and try to read that one later.
My name is Adriana Sharp. I am a recent Western graduate student, and I think another part of this policy that's important to talk about is it's paid safe and sick leave. I've lived all over Washington State. I consider myself lucky and happy to be here in Bellingham now. But everywhere I've been, I've seen domestic violence. I've seen it affect family. I've seen it affect friends. I've been affected by it myself. And it's not what Hollywood makes it out to be. It's not what TV says. It doesn't look like going on a nice first date and then the person you go out with punching you in the face on your stoop. It's slow, it's insidious, and one of the ways that abusers frequently abuse is by taking financial control, which means that someone who is abused is afraid to take a day off work to seek help from advocates or to lean on their family or to move out of the situation themselves. And I've, after my own experience, decided to become more involved. I became a member of Western's Empowerment and Violence Education and worked with them for 3 years. I achieved my advocacy certification with Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault Services, and I found that this isn't an issue that's just affected people in my life, but also affected people that I've spoken with and interacted with in that capacity, as well as, you know, being afraid of going to work sick. There's also this other, the other part of it, which is being able to safely take time off work for emergency situations. Thank you.
Thank you, Adriana. Lou Stevenson? Maybe?
Sorry about the handwriting.
Could you state your name more clearly for the record, though?
Okay. My name's Lou Stevenson. I'm a certified public accountant, and I've practiced in the area about 35 years or more. I want to commend the council for reviewing how the big cities of Seattle, Tacoma, and others are doing things so that Bellingham can follow suit. We all wish to live and work in the big cities, so hopefully we can get Bellingham to be exactly the same. One of the two goals stated in the discussion draft was to promote economic prosperity. So in addition to the proposed sick leave ordinance, I'm wondering if you can also require Bellingham businesses to pay for or provide the following: vacations, contributions to employee retirement plans, health insurance coverage, holiday pay, daycare subsidy or facilities, 1 day per month of personal leave, profit sharing business net income. Add to that the required approval of City Council before a business owner can take out net profits of the business for their own use, so the City Council can decide if there's a better use of the funds. Add to that any and all other requirements the City Council deems just over time, as to the other business operations. You see, I think the City Council knows much better than any Bellingham business owner how to run their business, probably because the council members are so much more experienced in all matters and all kinds of business operations. Surely the City Council knows better how to compete with other businesses and how to attract and compete for qualified employees the business needs. Perhaps the City Council should set up an advisory board for all matters business people could have the opportunity of its wisdom. I could go on, but my practice is now in Ferndale. I encourage all other businesses that can do it, move out of the Bellingham city limits, and go from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Lou. Next up is Judy Hopkinson, and followed by that will be Robin Robertson.
Thank you, and thank you all for showing up. It's pretty impressive. I'm Judy Hopkinson, and I am here to represent the League of Women Voters of Bellingham, Whatcom County. I'm co-president of the League this year and part of the team that generated our report on women's economic security in Whatcom County. Now, because of that work that we did to produce that study, our League is acutely aware that paid sick and safe leave can make the difference between financial survival and collapse for low-income women and the families that depend on them. For these women, having a job with such benefits is essential to their ability to move out of poverty. After completing the study, our membership of nearly 200 adopted a formal position supporting policies that provide living wage jobs, equal pay for equal work, and benefits that include but not limited to paid sick leave. Accordingly, the League of Women Voters supports the development of an ordinance for paid sick and safe leave. When adopted around the country, such policies have been well received by businesses. They have resulted in minimal or no cost increases to businesses, and they have resulted in reduced disease transmission in the workplace and improved workplace morale. There's a lot of benefits that we can get from this. The details of the policy, however, are very important, and we urge the Council to consider the benefits of engaging all stakeholders, businesses, social service agencies, and the workers who would benefit from such policies in a joint review of the proposal before it is moved to public hearing. All these stakeholders will have important insights that can improve the policy and together could help to craft an effective ordinance acceptable to the entire community. The right, sick, and safe leave policy would be a profoundly important resource for helping all low-income workers to escape the cycle of poverty. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Robin, and then following Robin, we'd like to hear from Chris Lindbergh.
Good evening. My name is Robin Robertson. I own and manage the Bellingham Tennis Club and Fairhaven Fitness. I want to thank you for inviting us all here tonight. It's always nice to have an exciting gathering. I'm curious with everybody here, who's ever owned and operated a brick and mortar business? Just a show of hands. Okay, so you know how hard it is to run a business and make it all work. First, I'd like to just say about the draft of the ordinance that I pulled from online. There's a couple of items I wanted to clarify. Under X.020I, the health care benefits, it reads as if somebody can take sick leave and still accrue sick leave at the same time. So I'd really like that to be looked at in the ordinance. I say that I support X.030G, that there's no cash payout for unused sick and safe time if an employee leaves employment, whether it's voluntary or involuntary termination. And then I also want to say that I support X.030B, that sick time cannot exceed 56 hours in 1 year if there is rollover included in that as well. So the other part is the reality of running a business. I ran the numbers for us today. We have about 25 employees, 4 are full-time, the rest are part-time. It's about 10 FTE, full-time equivalents. That adds up to about 560 hours a year of liability and sick time, and for this, on our average pay rate, that's about $10,000 a year. So this is not an insignificant ordinance. It has a definite impact to our budget, I don't have an extra $10,000 in our planning and budget, so it's going to have to come from somewhere. Either I pay lower wages, or I charge higher prices, or perhaps the city would like to give me a break on the B&O tax. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you, Robin. And now Chris Lindbergh, and after Chris, Villeen Lansbury, please.
Hi, my name's Chris Lindbergh. I'm a resident of Bellingham. Recently, I had a planned surgery and then unexpected emergency needs after getting out of the hospital. I had planned for my surgery. I had saved money so that I could pay my bills. I live with my son and his twin 5-year-olds, and at this time I am the sole support. I only work part-time. When I had to go back in the hospital and take a double time for my recovery without being able to go to work, I was looking at not being able to pay my rent, not being able to pay my bills. It's frightening to think that you are that close to being homeless, not just for myself, but for the people that I support, the family that I support. It's not necessarily comfortable to come before everyone and say that either, but I think it's important enough that you know these are real lives, these are real people. You know, we really face these circumstances. There are things like the previous speaker said, businesses across the country have found that they can implement this without great harm to their business. And things like this are being implemented in city and municipalities, just like the minimum wage is being raised and was just voted in Tacoma. These things are happening in municipalities, and they're workable. They are working. So I encourage you to develop an ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris. Villeen Lansbury, please, and after Villeen, Maria Velasquez.
Lena Amacker. I own a couple very small businesses here in town. And one of the things that I hear tonight, and when there's talk of family wage jobs and all the things that people want, is they group businesses into this giant group. But businesses are far from a giant group. I'm one of a small business, which most people don't have any idea what that means. It employs me and probably a couple part-timers. They're happy to get the job. Most of them are students. But as things get added on, I've had to cut hours and work more myself. It is my employment. So don't assume when you're talking about all this stuff that it's some big corporation that has unlimited funds, that they're just making huge profits, because most small business, truly small businesses struggle. You can tell that if you drive around town and see all the empty stores that have gone out recently over the last few years. Every time I drive around, I see a new business that's gone. I would personally have to probably not employ people, just run my business myself and close down earlier. Bellingham talks a lot about its many entrepreneurials and small businesses being so important to driving employment, and how they add the vibrancy to the area. This will not help increase that or keep that here. It'll cause those people to go somewhere else. I guess that's it. My job is not, it's an entry-level job, but it provides employment for my people that need that kind of job.
Thank you so much. Maria Velasquez, please. And then after Maria, John Strong will be next.
Hi. My name is Maria Velasquez. I came to trying to, because I'm a grandmother from those two boys, I got custody from them. And that affects us when I don't work because I have the boys, I have to take care. And when they got sick or some, I need to bring them to the doctor or the dentist, that is really hard for me because I have to get one of those days off. And when it's my payday, I can see the day I miss from take care of my kids. That's why I want to ask you guys for help. We can, all together work hard because I'm a hard worker. I support my kids, and if that help us, for get one day pay, that was really nice for us. And we are really hard workers. And I make my best for my speak English. For you guys, I hope you guys understand what I say. And I try to speak the fast I can before the pip kick me. Okay, and I want to say thank you. And I hope that helped. Okay, thank you.
Gracias, Maria. After Maria, John Strong, and following John, would Sean Embley please be ready?
Hi, I've been a business owner and C-level executive in Alaska, Washington, and Arizona for over 30 years. What I've learned is that when government intervenes in the free marketplace, a number of things happen. The first thing that happens is my cost of doing business raises significantly. Secondly, I have to raise my prices for goods and services to consumers. That's a bad thing. I can't raise my prices high enough to even cover the increased costs because I don't compete just with businesses in Bellingham. I compete outside Bellingham, outside Whatcom County, outside Washington, and outside of the United States. The brunt then falls on the consumer. They have to pay more money. So they have less disposable income. They pay less taxes to the government, and they don't have money to contribute to local charities. Then the other thing that happens is everyone who lives here, whether they're employed or not, is subject to increased taxes, sales tax, property tax, license tax, registration tax, or call it fees or something else. It's all the same. It's more money that they have to spend that they don't have, so they can't take care of people in my business. Even if I comply with every issue that the council is bringing up, doesn't make any difference. My cost still goes up because I have to spend thousands of dollars managing a compliance program that happens there. Everything that happens is bad. In addition to that, state and federal government has agencies and programs for public health, health and social services, domestic violence, and all of the other warm and fuzzy issues that we want to throw on the back of private enterprise. I don't see anything good that happens out of this for any of the citizens of Bellingham. Cost goes up for the government, too, because now they have to hire people to manage, implement, inspect, enforce. So their costs go up. Well, who pays for that? You and I do. And lastly, I would challenge the validity of the facts that are presented here, and we can have that in another discussion. These facts, I would suggest that you need to investigate them the same way that a reasonable person would investigate the supposed facts that we see on the internet or in supermarket tabloids.
Thank you, John. After John, Sean Embley, please. And after Sean Embley, Jamie Bonnet.
Good evening, council members. So my name is Sean Embley. I'm here on behalf of the Healthy Bellingham Coalition. And for the last months, I've been talking to hundreds and hundreds of Bellingham workers here in Bellingham about their stories over sick leave. Horrible, horrible stories I've heard over and over. People losing the ability to pay rent, getting kicked out of their house, being pushed into living with friends and family, people having lost their job from being disciplined, from calling in sick. I've heard these stories over and over, but I've also heard common stories, more boring, typical stories. And one of those stories today I'd like to share with you, the far more common stories. One of the workers here in Bellingham at a Hanigan, Eric Seats, has a quote that I would like to share on behalf of him. In the 4 years I've worked at Hanigan, I've only called in once. I rarely get sick, and nobody plans on getting sick, but when we do, we should be able to stay home without fear of discipline or missing a bill. That's why first day sick leave is so important. Now, we hear a lot of people talking about how devastating this is, but the reality of it is people rarely use sick leave. But it's tremendously important to have the ability to use it and have the ability to earn it. Also, we hear the argument over and over that, oh, let's not do this on the city level. Let's do it at the state level. And we get to the state level, and you hear the argument, well, no, we really shouldn't do this at the state level. We should do it at the federal level. And no, let's not do it at the federal level because we still have to compete with China and India. Let's figure something else out. Well, we see that where these places are implemented, it hasn't stymied business. Business is growing because when people do better, when workers do better in the community does better. And when you ensure that people have the ability to not lose out in an economic system, the economic system does better. And lastly, I just want to really encourage the council members to work towards solutions. Solutions with everybody at the table. Because this is something that's tremendously important, tremendously popular, and it's going to happen, and we should make sure we take a step and hear proposals from different city council members to work towards common solutions.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
Jamie Bonnet. And after Jamie, would Lori Province please get ready?
My name is Jamie Bonet, and my wife and I, Colleen, and I came up here from Seattle to start a business called Over Easy. It's over by Trader Joe's, and it's a franchise. And the challenge of coming up here, doing this in Washington State, is that we have the highest minimum wage in all states. I was surprised to find that out. So starting a business is hard. Starting a restaurant is hard. But we come here to do something for the community, to really make it a better place in Bellingham and Sunnyland Square. And when we came here, it just happened to be about the time that the Canadian dollar started to drop, and then so that was a little barrier. And so we've had some challenges the last 6 months, and it's very hard to start this business and to get going. And we employ about four full-time people and 10 part-time. And you mentioned just general ideas. I didn't come with a lot of facts, but I just want to say generally, I think we have enough on our plates with the state and the federal and all the other legislations and requirements that are on us as small business people to make this thing work. And if you were to put something like this into law, it would just make it a lot harder for us to succeed. We're trying to make this a success. And I think it would also make it harder for other businesses, or less likely for other businesses to want to come to Bellingham to start businesses, because it would be not a very conducive place to start a business. So I just don't see any good thing coming out of this, but this is my perspective as a new business owner. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bonet. Lori Province, please, and then I'll come back to that name too. Jorge Alvarez, I believe.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm just pleased that you're holding a listening session. My name is Lori Province. I live at 2501 West Street in the Columbia neighborhood of Bellingham. That's been my home now for over 35 years. I am delighted to be here again when the idea and the issue of paid safe and sick days was introduced some months back. I believe that I ended my conversation with you all by saying that I looked forward to a robust conversation about the topic, because as Bellinghamsters, that's what we do, and we do it very well. I'm here today, however, to stand in favor of the idea of paid safe and sick days. This is about community standards, this is about public health, and this is about families trying to succeed and thrive in this community. The actual costs, I appreciate the all conversation about liability, this, that, and the other, but since we're having a general conversation and the definite terms haven't been determined, it'd be pretty hard to run costs when you don't know if your business is included or excluded, whether it's full-time or part-time, and whether all of your employees are going to take advantage of the entire formula of sick leave in one given year or not, which is very rare in my opinion. I do believe, however, that as a mom enjoying sick leave for many years and being very grateful for it, the ability to stay home from work without losing the payment for my house or my utility bill because my daughter would come home from school with pink eye and we would be quarantined was something that I appreciated, and many, many of our community members don't have as a luxury today. We should be considerate of public health, and I thank you for my time.
Thank you, Lori. Jorge Alvarez? George Alvarez? Okay, if Mr. Alvarez doesn't want to speak, we'll go to the next one on that list, which is Garrett O'Brien. And then would Rebecca Hanigan get ready to speak after Garrett?
Hi, good evening. Garrett O'Brien. I'm a business owner. I own a construction company in Bellingham since 2005. I have 5 employees. My wife owns a small retail store downtown. I heard a lot of stories here tonight. In general terms, I'm against this ordinance or the concept of this ordinance for 2 reasons. One, I think it disproportionately affects small businesses. I think small businesses play an important part in our community, providing essential goods and services, and they would be disproportionately impacted financially by the added cost of providing this leave. The second is that I think this ordinance could lend itself to abuse. I think a lot of the people that spoke here tonight, I don't see those people as being people that could, abuse an ordinance like this, but we employ a lot of young people. If somebody wanted to take sick leave for nursing a hangover, that could happen. So, those costs are real to us. I think it's important that this isn't a debate about whether it's appropriate to provide sick leave. We certainly do. I think there should be compassion with your employees, and there should be a symbiotic relationship. You should be able to communicate with each other and take care of each other, a mutually beneficial relationship between employee and employer. It's really, is it a good idea to have the city mandate this kind of ordinance? And I think we should look at it in the larger context of the business environment in Whatcom County. We want to send a message that Bellingham's a business-friendly, earth-friendly place to live and do business, and we are competing against different municipalities that don't have these kinds of ordinances and don't have B&O tax. So we just got to keep it all in context and be aware of the impacts. Thank you.
Thank you, Garrett. And now we'll go to Rebecca Hanigan.
Good evening. Thank you. I bring a little different perspective in that I am part of a company that directly benefited from paid sick leave. I came in March to open an office for a company I work for in Seattle. We were part of the grand debate there, and we had firsthand experience. And if some of the things that we noticed immediately were, it is not costly to implement, whether you were on a very small company level, mid-level, or extreme. Software is generally built right in. I know you can do it in a spreadsheet in the back office. I know you can do it on a ledger with a tick mark. It is not a costly endeavor to implement the procedures. Additionally, what we found immediately was employee retention was much stronger. Employee morale. When you're in an office where somebody's coughing and hacking all over the printer and the computers and the telephones, there gets to be a bit of an animosity that you're sharing it and you're going to take it home to your family. But the thing that we really notice is our training costs dropped considerably. People were staying. So we weren't completely retraining everybody. That's very time consuming. It's very costly when you don't have employees up to speed. And conversely, there was not a sucking of services. We found people actually used the sick leave less. Knowing it was there, they were taking better care of themselves. They were staying home when they were sick, so the rest of the office, the other 14 people, were not as sick. The productivity was stronger. It has very positive things. And the last but not least, we started attracting very high-quality workers into the city of Seattle because it was a benefit that was so valuable to all the families. So it's not as frightening. It's very business-friendly. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. Matthew Vaughn, please. And after Matthew, would Stephanie Opelair please be ready?
Thank you to everyone. I've enjoyed all the comments, actually. They've been very interesting. I represent a large manufacturing company in the city as well as a retail company in the city. The point that I want to make is I'm starting to develop a Rorschach reaction to that buzzer going off, so I'm going to try to make this as quick as I can. My opposition is that I don't believe it belongs at the city level, that it's already being considered at the state level, it's already being considered at the federal level. There is no reason for us to be doing it municipality by municipality. Our companies compete with companies that are outside of the city that will not be impacted by the costs, will not be impacted by the restrictions, that will be impacted by if it's mandated by the city. There is no reason that a city has to get into this level of mandating to the employers that operate within the city. I don't agree with one of my comrades here that said move out to Ferndale. I think we belong in this city. It's a city we should be proud of. It's something we should fight for. We want to protect our employees. We want to take care of them. Our company offers a PTO program, not because it was mandated, but because we seek retention, because we want to keep our employees, we want to keep them happy. We've offered them on-site flu shots. We offer them all kinds of programs to help them. We're developing some incentives so that they will actually go use the insurance that we pay for 100% for our employees, for them to go to and get their annual physicals. We're doing these things not because the city is mandating them or the state is or President Obama is. We're doing it because it's what's best for our employees and because we want to get the best employees possible. That ought to be the driving force. That's the driving force of democracy, and that's what capitalism is all about. And that's what the employers here should be excited about. And the employees that we have appreciate what we offer them, and we don't get the turnover, and we don't get people leaving because they don't have sick leave or those kinds of things. But we do it because we want to retain them. And I think that that's what employers ought to be doing, and they ought to be moving to the city of Bellingham because it's a great place to do business.
Thank you, Matthew. After Matthew, Stephanie Opelair. And I just want to say we are making amazingly good progress. These have been very high-quality comments so far. Maybe we should have given you 2.5 minutes. Okay, Stephanie, and after Stephanie, would Laurel McIntosh please get ready to speak?
My name is Stephanie Opelair, and I co-own the Black Drop Coffee House. Starting October 1st, we began offering our employees paid sick and safe leave. They accrue 1 hour for every 30 hours worked and can use it within 1 calendar year. We believe that being able to stay home from work if you are ill, or caring for an ill family member, or taking needed steps to remove yourself or a family member from a domestic violence situation are part of your basic rights for dignity and respect, and they should be afforded to all workers regardless of industry. As a domestic violence survivor myself, I know personally the value of being able to take the time off without repercussions to escape a domestic violence situation. We're a really small business. We employ 10 people as of now. When I sat down with the spreadsheet and my business partner, Ryan, I showed him that offering sick and safe leave would end up costing us right around $200 a month for our entire staff. Assuming our whole staff used all of their given leave each year, when we ran our numbers, even with a tight budget, it was a no-brainer for us. Our employees are our responsibility and like our extended family. As a small business that believes in community, we do our best to pay our employees as much as we can and still afford to operate. We believe our people are our most important investment, and we decided as a team that we cannot tell our employees and people in our city honestly that they matter to us without giving them the option to still pay their rent if they happen to fall ill or injured. We also believe that by offering paid sick leave and safe leave to our employees, we help to retain the best people for our shop. Our training, believe it or not, is extensive and also expensive. We try our best to keep our turnover rate lower than industry standard. This is just one more way we can help attract and keep the best people to take care of our customers. We believe that all people living and working in Bellingham deserve a fair wage for the work that they do, and they should be able to take time to take care of themselves to achieve a healthy work-life balance. This is just one more step we can take to put our money where our mouth is, so to speak, as a community, and continue to work to make our community a better and safer place for everyone who lives in it.
Thanks, Stephanie. Laurel McIntosh, and after Laurel, would Rosemary Young be ready to go?
Good evening. My name's Laurel McIntosh, and as a small manufacturer with limited number of employees, this ordinance would actually have the ability to severely impact the financial health of our business. And I also believe the smallest businesses would be affected disproportionately if the ordinance went through as the draft states. In a competitive business environment, we bid for jobs and we have a limited margin. We cannot compete with we don't have any competitors within the city of Bellingham. They're all either in, outside the city or outside the state and even outside the country. So this really has a serious effect on us. We love our employees. They're like extended family. Our oldest employee's been with us 20 years. It's the only job he's ever had. We take care of our people. We offer vacation, sick leave, and holidays. We do the best we can for being such a small business because we know it's important to retain them. It takes a lot to train them, and we care about them. It's the right thing to do. And as business owners, and also as a previous employee up until the last 5 years, I know both sides of it. It's very important, I agree. But to have it legislated and mandated is basically almost offensive to me because it assumes that we have no integrity and that we don't look after our people. And we do. And long term, I do agree with everyone else that businesses will look elsewhere to locate and relocate. Because if it is passed the way it is written, it would be extremely detrimental to us as well as other small manufacturers. We have no way to make up 16% of the work year.
Thank you, Laurel. Rosemary Young, and after Rosemary, would Ed Brinson be ready?
Hello, thank you. My name is Rosemary Young, and I work at Safeway here in Bellingham, the brand new store, just to let you know. And yeah, I feel really humble being here and scared, so I'll admit that. In 2010, I had a heart attack, and when I had a heart attack, I thought I was invincible. I thought I'd live forever, but make a long story short, I got it. And if it wasn't for my sister, I probably would have been in the streets. I didn't go to work for 3 years, make that long story short, but during that time, I didn't have any sick leave or any pay or anything, and I was in jeopardy, my bills. If I had it, in short, I would probably be able to, think about the things I need to do. I am in favor. I'm not very smart. I can't really talk very good in my retention because of my heart attack, but I do know that with sick leave, that would have helped me a lot. I was in depression. I lost everything, my whole dignity, everything fell to my family. And that's pretty much what I wanted to say, just straight out, that it would have helped me. I had to sell my car. Like I said, I would have been on the streets, basically. And all I can say is I've been hearing about money and people, and I just hope we do pass this because we could show the world how Whatcom County is the place where we really care for our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosemary. Ed Brinson?
Wow, how do you follow that? Okay, I'm a small business owner. There's 5 of us all together. I crunched the numbers based on what I saw in the Herald the other day. And if everybody took all the sick leave that they could generate, it would set our business back about $6,000 a year. I'm not opposed to the concept of looking after the employees. It's incredibly expensive to replace an employee. It probably costs us $20,000 to replace an employee. So we want to keep them around. We want them happy. We want them working hard. But I'm real concerned about a one-size-fits-all legislation that a really small business would have to comply with. It's difficult to administer some of this stuff, contrary to what I've heard. You know, when the payroll taxes change, it's a real headache for me to comply with that. So yeah, there is a lot of administrative effort and cost that goes in with these new programs and legislation changes. So I'd like you to consider that. You know, that's pretty much in a nutshell. I'm not opposed to the idea of looking after people, but I am concerned about what the costs are going to be and where the money's going to come from. Just like you have a budget at home, you get a paycheck, and then you have to pay rent, and you have to pay for a car or whatever, and pretty soon the money is gone. A business works the same way. We get revenue, but then we have to pay rent and power and employees, and pretty soon the money's gone. So it can't just come out of thin air. So keep that in mind, please.
Thank you, Ed. Up next would be Carol Jacobson, and then we've got another poser. Are your initials O and S? Carol.
Good evening, and thank you for this meeting. With flu season upon us and an outbreak of E. coli as close as Skagit County, this is a very timely listening session. In Bellingham, some 44%, that is 21% workers, mostly paid the state minimum $9.47, are employed mostly in healthcare, retail, accommodation, food service, and food services, and do not receive paid sick leave. As a captive market, they spend their income here. They do not disappear when the loonie value drops, and they do not threaten to move away when faced with one more financial responsibility. A Bellingham coalition has sent a draft. It is only a draft, and it is based on the experience of 20-plus cities, 4 states, and now the federal contractors and subcontractors have it, thanks to the President. The result everywhere is initially fearful businesses. They do not relocate or fail is the good news. Business can expect safer work practices, a higher degree of job satisfaction, and commitment resulting in more production, and less turnover, more faithful people, and costly retraining doesn't happen because you have longer-term employees. Public health is assured to all. A Cornell study reports 5% decrease of flu in paid and sick leave towns. Fiscal responsibility and prudence exists in other communities with paid sick leave. For example, Seattle had a half-time person assigned for the first 2 years to overserve a workforce of 500,000 employees. It's not expensive.
Thank you, Carol. Yeah, if there's somebody who wants to speak in opposition, that may be an A, Arnie Schick, Ona Shin. I'm sorry. Okay, we'll come back to that. I now have several more names on the in favor list, but not people signed up for opposition. I'm still going to just give people an opportunity. If you do want to come up and speak, I'll try to alternate as much as I can. But right now, after Carol, we'll hear from Ariana Davis and then Maria Velez. If you're coming from up there, that microphone up there should actually work. If you push the button and it turns red, you can use the upper microphone. You don't need to come down. So push the button. If the red light comes on, you're good.
Hear me?
Yeah.
So my name is Ariana Davis, and I'm a grocery worker. I'm here representing Ufcw Local 21. I've worked for Safeway since I was 16. It's been about 9 years and 5 months now. As a grocery worker, as you all know, I'm a cashier. You know, ringing up people as they come through the line when you're sick, it's hard because they ask you why you're coughing, why you're sneezing, and out of embarrassment you have to tell them, well, you know, I'm sick and unfortunately I can't pay my bills unless I go to work because, you know, we have to be sick for 3 days in order to get paid sick leave. So it's very important, and to me myself, I have a condition where when I get stressed out or sick, I have muscle spasms in my neck and my lower back, and it's been an issue for me ever since I was young. And having first day sick and safely would be amazing, and it would give me the opportunity to stay home, get better, and be able to do my job effectively. Because as you know, as a cashier, it's really, really hard to operate a register if you're sick or if you're in pain. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ariana. Maria Velez?
Yes, hi, I'm Maria, and I'm a healthcare worker, and I'm lucky enough that I have paid sick leave, but it really scares me when my healthcare workers come to the ICU sick because they don't have paid sick leave, risking the lives of many patients that we promised to take care of. So I wish for everybody to have paid sick leave. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Is there anybody who would like to speak in opposition to the measure at this time? I'll give you an opportunity, maybe some comments. You need to come to the microphone because in part we're recording this and it doesn't show up on the videotape. So if you could just go over there and please state your name.
Hi, my name is Kathy Salisbury, and I own 2 small businesses. And one, I'm not prepared at all to speak, but in listening to this, my first thought is, as I'm looking through my task list and I'm looking through my emails as to what I'm supposed to be doing as a small business person, I'm going to read, oh dear, sorry. Oops, sorry, because I know my time is going to run out.
You could be a little bit lenient.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I was trying to pull this up real quick, and now my phone is not cooperating.
Maybe you can just speak from memory.
I'm sorry. So this is just, we're trying to be compliant with the 1095C from the Obamacare. That is a report that we're required to complete by January 31st. And basically we have no idea how we are supposed to do it. And so I've been trying to basically talk to Moss Adams about what they know and what we can do to get that done. And we have not been able to find any information. We've been talking to software companies about how we are going to meet that requirement. And I think the challenge that we face as a business is how can we get this done, and how are we supposed to continuously every year meet the requirements that are being put on us. I look at this and I'm like, I have no idea. And all I see is I see the fines. And I see, I mean, how many people here know what a 1095C form is and how to complete it? That is just my, sorry, I'm not prepared, okay? Because I should be working on my 1095C.
That's fine, Kathy. Spontaneous comments are often the most honest. So Ariana, Marcia, Paula McCandless, please, and then Joe Mizrahi.
Not Paul.
Yeah. Okay. Is Paul here? If not, we'll go on to Joe. Go ahead, Joe.
Okay, sure. My name is Joe Mizrahi. I'm the Political Action Director with Ufcw 21, and we represent over 900 workers who live here in the city of Bellingham. You know, I just want to say, working for a union, we end up fighting with a lot of employers and getting into some pretty big battles. And I want to say tonight, what I've heard is actually really heartening, because it sounds like there's actually a lot of commonalities in this room and a lot of people who are working towards the same goal of a healthy Bellingham that actually treats people with respect and is a good community for everyone, business and workers. And I think, you know, I hope that everyone here can remember to not buy into this false narrative of workers versus small business. And I think what's interesting is that not who's in this room, but who's not in this room. We haven't heard from Walmart. We haven't heard from Macy's. We haven't heard from Safeway. We haven't heard from Kroger. We haven't heard from Hanigan. We haven't heard from McDonald's. And these are the people who I think are really benefiting and kind of hiding behind small business. We know that it's hard to operate a small business, but these are Fortune 50. These are some of the greediest corporations in the country, and they're the ones who are doing real harm to our community by denying people paid sick leave. And I totally understand the argument of businesses who don't want a mandate, who say, we already do this. The good thing is, if you already do this, if you already give PTO time, you already give paid sick leave, you're not going to have to change a thing. But what is dangerous is the Walmart, who we know will never do the right thing unless someone makes them do the right thing. And I think that we need to really step back and not buy into this narrative that it's workers versus small business, because the real enemy here are these big greedy corporations that are doing the real harm to our community. And I hope that the leadership on this council can help guide the people in this room to a solution that actually works for everyone in this room. You know, I just want to say that workers aren't asking for paid vacation time. They're not asking for company cars. They're not asking for some radical notion. They're asking for the security to know that when they're sick, when their kids are sick, if they're the victims of domestic violence, that they can stay home, not worry about paying rent, not worry about putting food on the table, and actually not worry about losing their job. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe, does anyone like to speak maybe with oppositions or concerns about this? Okay, I'll take you, sir, first, and then I'll go to somebody else and come back to you, Guy, okay? So please state your name at the microphone.
My name is John Ferlin, F-E-R-L-I-N. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for Brooks Manufacturing. That's a business that's been in this community since the mid-30s. We employ approximately 50 people. And as a representative of the company, you know, we're opposed to this idea. And I guess it's government intervention in the relationship between the employer and the employee. There's a contractual relationship that exists between the employee and the employer. You hire somebody, you promise them certain pay, certain benefits. They say, yes, I'll go to work for that. Now what's happening is that the city's going to come along and interject itself between that relationship and start mandating what type of benefits that the employee should have. And again, where does that stop? There's been discussion that once you start here, the next thing is a $15 minimum wage that people will propose. So the autonomy of the employer starts to be destroyed. And other people have talked about the competitiveness of industries and businesses in Bellingham versus, you know, Ferndale or Mount Vernon or whatever. I mean, we compete regionally. So we're basically opposed to the idea. It's a cost to business. The smaller the business, the more impact it's going to be. Our sick leave policy is go home and get well and come back because we need you. We encourage our employees to be part of the company. In my book, giving people paid sick leave sends a negative message and says, hey, you can go and leave your company and not have to worry about it. A lot of these problems that these people are bringing up, the 6 or 7 days sick leave that this policy will allow them for a full-time job is not going to cover the person with a heart attack. This lady with 2 children, she's going to take time off because they're sick. When she gets sick, she's going to run out of the 6 or 7 days you're going to give her under the ordinance. So it just doesn't make sense. Thank you.
Thank you, John. We'll now go to Vicki Niles and then Mr. Ochogrosso. Mr.
Hi, I'm Vicki Niles, and I've been teaching for 40 years. And I've taught in many different situations. I've taught in a migrant school. I've taught in a very high income area, and I've been in Bellingham for 23 years. I love Bellingham. I believe in Bellingham. But I also see some things happening that are kind of overlooked with all of this. I see children coming to school sick because their parents have to go to work. I see kids laying in the sick room all day because their parents have to work and they can't leave to come pick them up. And I see older children taking care of younger children because parents cannot do it. Bellingham is a very educated, wonderful place to live. We should not be making people make the choice between supporting their families financially and supporting their families when they're sick. Thanks.
Thank you, Vicki. Guy, and after Guy, we'll listen to Jael Komatz.
So Guy Achigrasso, President and CEO of the Bellingham Whatcom Chamber of Commerce and Industry. We represent about 600 businesses, mostly in Bellingham, but throughout the county. I believe the last statistic that we had, 73% of them had fewer than 20 employees. So just to kind of show the representation of the chamber. And one of the things that I'm always interested in is when legislation comes, we understand, or at least we conceptualize, that all business is created equal, and it's not true. Small business is not big business, like someone said. We're not Seattle, and this is where this has been tested. We're not an economic magnet like Seattle is. If you're a business in Seattle, where do you go? Do you go Bellevue? Probably not. Seattle's big enough and probably has more competition, whereas we don't have that as Bellingham. I know Ferndale has been mentioned a few times. For those of you that know me in the room, you know that I have some intimate connection with Ferndale because I was their executive director for their chamber for 7.5 years. And I do believe, right about a year and a half ago, I had a meeting that may have had a couple of you in my office, and you were curious as to how to make Bellingham business friendly. And I don't know if you remember what I said, but I do. And you just do. And a big piece of that is time is money. And you couple that notion with all businesses aren't created equal. A payroll in a retail or a manufacturer is different than a payroll in an office. And so when applying these generalizations, do take that in mind. So I see my time coming up very soon, but yeah, just to reference that I'm opposed. Thank you.
Thank you, Guy. Jael Komatz. Jael, please tell me your name.
Hi, I'm Jael Comack.
Thank you.
I'm speaking in favor of an ordinance in some form for the city. I'm representing the largest labor union employed by the city of Bellingham as the employer. We are approximately 375 of your employees. We're all the non-uniformed employees, so we treat your sewer, make sure your water's safe to drink, run your warrants, sweep the streets, shovel the snow, maintain the parks, and even teach your kids how to swim. The city of Bellingham is approximately 50 employees who have no paid time off, including sick leave benefits. The majority of those people work at the Bellingham Public Library, which is right across the street, and it's one of the most used libraries in the nation. These people are scheduled to work only 16 to 19 hours per week and make just over minimum wage, so missing a day unpaid is a huge impact to them. I've talked to many of them, and yes, they do come to work sick. They daily assist members of the public who are sick and regularly become sick through their contact with the public and handling their reading materials, and we consider this a public health issue. There are also a number of bargaining units at the city who, according to a policy that was recently introduced in the last couple of years, can be penalized for using the sick leave they have accrued. For instance, having the flu or a twisted ankle is an unauthorized absence because it is not scheduled. And these absences can lead to discipline. And I would just like to ask you, when is the last time having the flu or twisting your ankle was scheduled? We do support a paid sick and safe leave ordinance in some form in the city because it's the right thing to do, and we hope that the city of Bellingham, as an employer, will set the example and immediately start letting all of their employees earn sick leave and use it with no penalty. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Larry Hildes and Karen Wheel. Larry left, okay. Kathleen Alstad. And then after Kathleen, I'll turn it back over if anybody who would like to speak in opposition or with concerns.
Hello, thank you. My name is Kathleen Nostad, and I just want to share a story about how having safe leave helped me when I was 21. I was currently attending Western Washington University as a junior, studying in the community health program. My plate was full with being a full-time student, a track athlete, volunteering as a peer health educator, and working. I unfortunately had to add the stress of dealing with the consequences of dealing with a stalker. I have to say, looking back on this now, I was so fortunate to have friends, family, Western staff, community resources, and an employer who assisted me with the safety planning and gave me the time I needed. I know that I'm not the only person in this community who has the added stress of domestic violence, sexual assault, or stalking. I could not imagine what my life would be like if I did not have an employer who could provide me with the safety net and insurance I would not lose my job or lose crucial wages. Earned paid sick and safe leave is a public health issue as well as a public safety issue. The 1 in 4 women and the 1 in 59 men who experience domestic partner abuse are our neighbors. These neighbors live in our community and also work here. It is our duties to protect the neighbors by moving forward on this policy to make this place a beautiful place to live and a safer Bellingham. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Would anyone like to speak in opposition? And we've got to the end of the list for the people who signed up to speak in favor. Is there anybody who would like to speak one way or the other? You don't even have to decide which side you're on. Will you please come forward and state your name, and then go ahead and get in line next, sir.
I believe I was on deck. I just didn't get called.
Oh,
My name
sorry.
is Paula McCandless.
Right.
And I've been an attorney practicing here in Whatcom County for the last 18 years. I've had the pleasure of serving many clients over those years, and unfortunately, many of them have had to make difficult choices when it comes to safety in their home and where they can work and having a job. And I'm talking about victims of domestic violence. And I have also met many clients who had to make difficult choices on whether to go to work sick or to potentially stay home and face some consequences. I've met clients over the years who've had to make difficult choices on whether to send their children to school sick because they themselves can't take time off of work. And then finally, I've represented many people who've been injured through no fault of their own, and they too have to face the idea of a difficult choice of whether to go to work or to face the consequence of this. And I am urging our council to adopt an ordinance. I think it's the best thing for our community in the long run. I've been a business owner as a small business owner, and now I'm operating a firm in Fairhaven. And I would just tell you that it does cost, but in the long run it saves, and that also we're able to budget it, and that's that you have to make plans for as a business owner. And so I think it can happen, and I'd like to see it happen here in Bellingham. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. Go ahead and state your name.
Hi, I'm Samantha Grad, and I'm here on behalf of the Healthy Bellingham Coalition. I've heard a lot of folks talk about how we're trying to build a better Bellingham for business and how this is going to drive businesses out of Bellingham. And I would just like to say, if you look at the track record of where this has passed before, that has not been the case. There's actually been growth in the business sectors, and many of those cities are actually smaller than Bellingham or comparable to Bellingham. This isn't just Seattle-sized cities that have had this success with policies like this. And in Seattle, they have the auditor did a study, and they polled businesses, and actually 74% of them said that it was cheaper to implement than they thought. One of the reasons being, I know a lot of you have done the math and you guys have said it's just too expensive for your business. You're factoring everyone taking every single day of sick leave. The average is 3 days, not 7 days. It's there if people need it, but the majority of people take an average of 3. I've spent a lot of time up here talking with workers who work and live in Bellingham, and I want to share a story from one of them. Her name is Marcia Feely. She works at the Fred Meyer here, and she said in the 16 years she's been working in grocery, she's only been sick a handful of times. Many times she goes to work sick because she cannot afford to miss a single day. She said when you are sick and thinking about calling in, you start to think about how much money you're going to be losing, how much your paycheck is going to be, and whether or not you can afford to miss a day. So you end up going to work sick. And oftentimes people complain to you, shouldn't you be at home? You're passing this around. I don't appreciate that. And she says, I say, yes, I should be, but that won't allow me to pay my bills, so here I am.
Thank you, Samantha. Would anyone else like to speak? Generally, we don't do that. Yeah, Robin, go ahead. Yeah, email us a question. That's a good idea. Robin?
Just really quick. It's one of those administrative things. If we're going to be, I'm one of those businesses that have a lot of part-time people. And so let's say one of my employees who only works a couple hours a week because she's a fitness instructor and she calls in sick. Do I then do I pay her for a full day, an 8-hour day, which normally she works a 1 hour or an hour and a half? The administrative time to figure out what their average worked day is, that just looks like a nightmare to me for part-time employees. And for a business that is more part-time than I am full-time, that's just an administrative big kerfuffle, and there's got to be some direction in, if it's going to be imposed on us, how to handle part-time and evaluating how to pay out on part-time
Thank you for your
employees.
feedback.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Actually, you had your hand up earlier, didn't you? Why don't you go ahead and speak next, and sir, you can be immediately after him.
Hi, thank you. I'm John Chadwick, a Bellingham resident. I lived and worked for a German employer for 12 years. Married a German woman. We had a son and a daughter over there. Germany, like the United States, has elected officials to make rules and regulations and laws. In fact, Germany makes lots of rules and regulations, many more so than the United States, I guarantee it. But the cost of doing business in Germany, whether you're a small business or Siemens or somebody like that, Messerschmitt, the cost of doing business includes paid sick leave. It's a given. It doesn't matter, you know, it's just like they have single payer health care there. It's a standard of doing business, whether it's the safety of the employees or the healthy environment for the employees. It's a cost of doing business. So when my wife, my German wife then moved to the States, we started a small business. It was a Montessori school. She was the head teacher. She hired another teacher for a morning class. My wife took the afternoon class, and each head teacher had an assistant. So my wife basically had 3 employees. Each employee had paid sick leave because it was a given. We wouldn't even think about trying to hire people without paying them. It was a cost of doing business. So I just say if I can start a business that succeeds, and when we weren't trying to get rich, we were just providing a livelihood, and it worked, and it's still thriving. In Germany, despite all of their rules and regulations and high standards of doing business, they are a thriving economy, folks.
Thank you. Please come forward and state your name.
My name is David Morse, and I'm I guess opposed to the concept of mandatory sick leave. My family has operated businesses in Bellingham, or at least what became Bellingham, since 1884. You know, I feel like our businesses, our family's businesses, like many businesses in Bellingham have treated their employees very well and done that without mandatory requirements. One aspect of this concept that concerns me is the potential for abuse. And I remember when I worked for a company right out of college, sick leave was an entitlement and it was additional vacation essentially, and that was a viewpoint that not all of my coworkers but many of my coworkers had, and that was troublesome. There's an issue that was talked about, a serious illness and what impact a serious illness would have on an employee. And in our business, we eliminated sick leave we had something similar to what this law would require, proposed law would require, but we eliminated it. And instead, we implemented a long-term extended sick leave benefit. So if an employee has a serious illness, has cancer or a serious medical issue or a major family issue or something like that, and doesn't have and can't work for an extended period of time, we would pay them 2/3 of their salary for a 6-month period after they've been out of work for a month, or it may be 8 months, I don't recall. That provides a real meaningful benefit, not 56 hours of pay if they're sick, but a meaningful benefit that will allow them to keep their home or whatever else that might be very near and dear to them in the event of an extended illness, and it wouldn't that benefit would not comply with this proposed regulation as you've imposed it, and that really concerns me, because I think what we've done is a major benefit, a major potential benefit to our employees.
Thank you, David.
Thanks.
Would anyone else like to speak? We have. Okay. We'll go to you next. We are coming up to the end of our hour and a half. I do want to say that I think this has been very efficient, very well-spoken, idea-rich presentations of facts. After we hear, I think, this last comment, I'll turn it over to my committee members and see if they have anything else to say. State your name, please.
Hi, I'm Diane Foster from Bellingham. I've been a nurse practitioner in women's health for 35 years. And I've noticed recently that our federal government isn't working. It's completely stuck. So I think that any benefits we have for our people need to come from the grassroots up. And that's what we're trying to do now, and spread it that way. So I could tell you tons of stories over my many years in practice of patients who were not able to take time off work, and their diseases became much more complicated because of it. I'm thinking of two right now, one in Skagit, one in Whatcom, who were not only not able to take the time off work, even with a doctor's note, for bed rest, but they were threatened with losing their jobs because of, what do you call it? They just can't take leave, even with the doctor's permission. So when you have something like pelvic inflammatory disease that can be treated outpatient with antibiotics and bed rest, but they don't treat it, they just keep going, it becomes a hospitalization issue. And I can tell you hospitalization is much more invasive and much more expensive. Thank you.
Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and, you've already spoken, you both have, yeah. We don't usually do a back and forth. We would like to have this be a listening session, and then we will talk among ourselves. We don't want to get into arguments, with you or back and forth. We want to listen at this point. Yeah, I know, but we have rules, and it's because it does get out of hand, even in the best situations. Please do feel free to email each and every one of us or the City Council as a whole. So I'm going to go ahead and close for now any testimony tonight. Committee members. Roxanne? Pinky. Oh, sorry, Pinky?
I just wanted to thank you for coming here, because civic engagement is the barometer on how we make our decisions and how we move forward on things. And to see this many people engaged, and I will say in the last couple of months since this ordinance was put forward, I've talked to more businesses than I have in the 2 years that I've been here. So no matter how we evolve, I just want to thank you for that engagement and say, please do continue to engage with us, and so we can understand what our citizens need. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mickey. Roxanne?
Yeah, I also want to echo
my sincere appreciation for every word that was said tonight, because this is really important feedback. What each of you said is going to really help us shape a policy that I hope will reflect the values of this community, because I think this is a really important issue for our community, and I hope it's something that we can continue with. But also, I would just like us to now give a round of applause, because I value that we had a really healthy dialogue, and I want to thank you all for that. So, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And this coming Monday, the City Council will have its regular meeting sessions. My committee will be meeting. We'll have about a 15, 20 minutes in that committee. We probably will discuss this item, and it'll be part of the regular course of business. There's no other further action planned at this time. Thank you very much. We are adjourned.